What is up, YouTube? JankyYGO here, back on the podcast. Kind of, I guess I'll call it a podcast because this isn't like a Banlist reaction or whatever. We're just gonna be talking. Um, so where do you want to start?
I mean, we start at the top, don't we?
I mean, we can, yeah. The first ones are like Agido, Kelbeck,
That
Mathmex
makes sense.
Circular, and
Makes
Isolde.
sense. Yeah, Zold. I honestly, I'm gonna be real with you. This whole time, I thought Isolde was hit. Like,
It's
I thought that happened like 5 years ago. I know the card's probably not been out that long, but in my brain, I was like, wouldn't that card hit 5 years ago?
I think I think it was out about 5 years ago. 2018. I'm pretty sure it was out in 2018. Um, I I've been advocating it for it to be banned since it got started before it came out in the TCG. Actually,
Nothing fair happens with that card. It's too generic.
back in Link era before Link 2020, I was so against anything that summoned any material from the deck because of how important links were. And then when they made links a little less important, I mean, they're still like probably the strongest summoning mechanic. It didn't seem like it needed to go as much. Same thing with like Electromite. But man, I am so or Hauki Fibrex. I mean, not Electromite. Electromite's the thing one. But yeah,
That thing can stay gone.
but Agito and Kelbeck, the Millers are fine because to be gone. It means Tearlaments is probably actually dead now, but
Those are the ones that milled, right?
yeah,
See, and that was, I believe I was just having a conversation the other day about these, and someone went, well, I don't get why they're so good. I'm like, they're great because one, they randomly mill. So, and the whole deck is just an everything burger that you want milled, basically. I'm like, and two, they give you information on the opponent's deck. Like, they're good.
uh,
They're a little too good.
yeah. I made the joke that we should ban the shufflers next and everything just because so we can have Kit Kalos back and I can be trusted. I promise. Uh, uh, as for like the last hit, Mathematics Circular for the actual ban, I don't. I mean, it's not a. It's a broken card. I've never seen Mathmex do
To
anything.
quote a random thing I saw, and you might have been the one that posted it, with the hit on Circular, um, they basically just banned Europe.
No, that's not Europe. That's we'll get into the limiting ones. That's the one that hit
Oh,
Europe.
okay.
But before that, we got Harp Horror, Redox, and then Rescue Ace Airlifter. And out of all of these, I think the Rescue Ace is like still hit that's gonna matter. Um, I watched I did watch a few ban list reactions, and with
Like you do.
Rescue Ace Airlifter, they were saying that that's the most annoying hit that they could have done because it's obviously needed, and now it forces some people. They said it forces people to play the Bell Star one, and then I've also seen other people say that that's like a huge. But like, it's yeah, Airlifter being hit is a really big hit in that deck. It's still probably the best deck, but it also means it's a lot more expensive. Redox is just a worse Vernaself, and for its discard, otherwise it's a Dragon Ruler that's gonna come back. That doesn't really matter too much. The Dragon Rulers, as we've seen on Master Duel, do not do anything.
Orchest Harp Horror, though.
Um, I don't know if Orcus can compete in today's game. Uh,
So the thing with Orchest is the archetype itself is really good at being mashed up with things.
mm,
So as long as you have an archetype that is dark you have a deck. Like they're really good at support.
Could play them in tier. It's
Yes. That's kind of what I was getting to. It's like, woo, tier.
But the thing is that like tier lost their like heavy military now. So right now they have their
Yeah.
because all the main deck monsters except for the Foolish Burial is which is pretty much all the ones that actually summon and mill more than one card. They all mill are limited, and yeah, it's not gonna be great because the only tier element at the moment fusion that is dark and Orcus lock you in dark is oh, they lock you into dark for the rest, but the only dark one is Kaleido Heart. So I I don't know if they'll run it in Orcus or I'm gonna keep using Master Duel as a good example for this, but Orcus has like 3 Heart Pourers in Master Duel and nobody plays that deck except for maybe like a few dedicated fans, but probably stuck in plat. So
Yeah. So what about the European hit with the Suvine deck?
it's the Sun Avalons.
Is it the Sun Avalons that
It's
yeah.
because I don't remember her last name, but her first name is Jessica. She is like she made it to World. She played Sun Avalon there too. She won a YCS with them over there. And there's a lot of people when Sun Avalon and Rika top, it's usually either her or a few other people, and they're usually all in Europe. So it that's why people were like they're nerfed Europe and everything when I saw that joke on Twitter.
It makes sense.
The Unchained
Ib
hit,
coming back is interesting.
yeah, the Ib coming back. I know that some people are like kind of scared and also like probably they're like it's probably fine question mark.
That's never good. It's probably fine.
Uh, the Unchained hit. I know that I listened to some people that actually played the deck. They were saying that it pretty much just means you have to actually search the Shavara instead of like pretty much always having it and not needing it. So that's the for the Unchained hit. But Ib is interesting. I remember seeing a lot of degenerate combos with Ib, but I don't remember. I don't. Jax brought it up that it was Star Dragons, I believe, that were like the ones really abusing it. But
That makes sense.
most of the cards that Ib was broken in or made broken are also banned now. So now
You
it's time for the real interesting, or what I've seen a lot of people think is interesting. I don't actually think it's that interesting. Snatch Steel is now at 1. People are freaking out. I've seen a lot of people, mainly Yugi, freak out and say this is 2015 all over again. It's gonna come down to stealing one of their monsters, and then there's a lot of bad beat story, and then they're gonna ban it next list. I don't think so. I don't think Snatch Steal is that strong in today's game when we have tons of a lot more disruption than we did back in 20.
like 2015 it was an awful idea.
Yes.
Like there was at no point was that a correct thing, and I really think they were testing the waters with that one, and they just went, "Yeah, no, we screwed up. No, we really screwed up." But Snatch Steal, that's definitely an interesting one because now you can have some go second strategies that just their whole plan is to take your board from you or force you to answer these board taking cards.
Mm-hmm.
And then after you've answered them, then they start playing the game. Or if you can't answer them, just lose to your own board. So there's a lot of really cool theory crafting going into this now. that because you have the Change of Heart now, you have the Snatch Steal, you have mind controls if you want to play those. Like
Yeah,
we've actually hit a pretty interesting point.
I heard a few people. I mean, not just in our locals chat, but I've also seen like other places say that they think that they're gonna try to run in a go second deck, Snatch Steal, Change of Heart, and then the 3 mind controls is like a 5 card package and everything.
Yeah,
Because they are very good at forcing disruption. Because at the very least, you're gonna take probably one of their pieces that can also negate. They're gonna force
you're
that
taking
up.
a problem card with you. Yeah.
Uh,
Um,
I
in
know.
my mind, I was thinking in the Sprite Dino deck that it could honestly replace the Sky Striker engine,
Yeah,
like completely.
yeah. Uh, McConkos will probably might try Snatch Steal. I know there's some builds that actually do play the one of Change of Heart. I don't think that they would do Mind Control because Mind Control the monster can't attack or be tributed. Uh, but
Yeah.
but with Snatch Steal and Change of Heart they can. So Snatch Steal might be. As far as the rest of the limited cards, the Gozen, the Rivalry, and the Tikaboo, aka there can only be one. Um, I think that these are healthy hits for the game, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if even at one they become issues and get banned later on. Because typically when these cards go to one, if there's still a problem, they feel even worse to play against because it means you got luck sacked. And with Pot of Prosperity and how deep we can dig for these cards, I don't think limiting them it might be enough if they're gonna be like that much. If they're still gonna be like around and everything, or if floodgate decks who want them are going to really have that bad of a hit. But that's just my opinion.
It's an interesting hit on oh, what's that deck?
Uh, Vanquish Soul.
What?
Vanquish Soul. Vanquish Soul is
No, not
the
Vanquish Soul. Oh, the one that all of your spells are instant fusions.
oh Runic.
Yeah, it's more or less a hit on Runic too.
Yeah, Runic.
Yeah, Runic Stun gets a little worse.
I can see that.
Just a little.
I brought up Vanquish Soul because there can be only one is a Vanquish Soul like staple. Every time that deck's topped, it's probably because of that card. To be honest, and the one time I ran into it at regionals, my opponent he was very cool and everything and nice. Probably because I helped him get his card back, but I think he would have been salty because there could be only one was usually what would win him games, and it didn't do anything to the gold pride deck that I was playing. But uh, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of Vanquish Soul players that like, well, our deck's dead. It can't. It literally can't compete now.
That's awful.
It,
Whole deck based on one card.
kind of.
I would never.
The deck pretty much bounced it. Watching that deck play without there can be only one is really funny because it doesn't seem like just dodges a lot of remove stuff. Semi-limited hits. We got Anchor Tops, Speedroid Terratop, and Pearly Sleepy Memory. Sleepy Memory is the one where it draws. So on standby, I would honestly have thought this card got hit, sooner. But I guess not. Speedroid Terratop is interesting. Uh, Free special summon and an easy rank 3, and I honestly wonder if it's for the Goblin Biker deck because that's a rank 3 deck. So
That's probably what they're testing the waters with it.
yeah, Pankratops is
Tinkertops
interesting.
is obviously going to go to 3 next time.
Uh,
This is them testing the waters, but like it's a good card, don't get me wrong, and it's good for go second, but like Fenrir's so much stronger.
yeah, Fenrir is really really strong.
Yes, there are situations where Pankratops is better because I even play it at 1 in my deck, but in my mind, I'm thinking, Pankratops is probably just going to go to 3 after this. Like, because I don't see it impacting the game as much as it did when it first, got hit. Like, when it first got hit, it was hit just because it was in every sideboard. Every deck that was running it would run it. I mean, it was a free thing. But now we're at a point where, we have such powerful cards that break boards and clear up things that Pankratops is just, he can break.
Uh, it
It's
is
still a powerful card.
it is
Very
interesting.
powerful.
It is interesting because you could like right now if you really wanted to, you could play Pankratops, tribute it, top a thing, and then summon Fenrir as well, all without using your normal
Yeah.
and search another copy of Fenrir. So if they out that Fenrir, you could special summon another one. You just but
Yeah.
uh next up is in the unlimits or the unhits. Um Infernity, Archfiend, and Kashtira Unicorn. Um Unicorn coming back means that Cash outside of a Rise Heart is at full power. And Diablos is still banned. Uh, those two cards, I think, as long as those two cards, honestly, Cash is annoying, but it's manageable. Um, Infernity
I think
Arch,
Unicorn is seen play as just a searcher off of another searcher off of your Veneer, though. So,
uh,
like, you can play a Unicorn too, because tinkering with their extra deck is pretty hilarious.
Infernity Archfiend, coming to 3. It's not going to be enough for the deck to actually be relevant again. The problem with Infernities is that it can't run non-engine. It can't run hand traps. It has to play very little monsters in general to do the game plan that it wants to do. So while the deck can pretty much generate infinite link fodder, um, there's tons of decks that can do that. So Infernity isn't like an issue anymore. Uh, Mind Control we kind of got into and everything as running it like that 5 card package, the steal your stuff things. Pot of Desire is coming to 3. It should have been at 3. It should have never been semi-limited. Don't come for me. Spellbook.
Honestly, I think putting it at 2 was just Konami telling players to play the correct numbers of them. Don't get me wrong, I was always a play 3 Pod Desires, but playing with 2 of them, I genuinely hit this point where I went, you know what? I don't think the third one actually mattered that whole time.
All the third one did was that you guarantee that you were pretty much gonna draw it or increase the chances quite a bit amount. But
Yeah,
it's pretty nice, except for the one time I played it and drew 2 more Pod Desires, and I just wanted to
done that.
I just wanted to give up on Yu-Gi-Oh and go live in the mountains and be a hermit.
But back on mind control, this being at 3 again, that's interesting because um it they might go back on the mind control thing because they've really that that in itself is actually a pretty interesting because mind control at 3 just it's a free spell. There is no drawback to mind control other than what you can't attack with it and you can't tribute it,
Yeah.
like we said. So like there is no cost to playing it. It's a card that has to be answered.
Uh,
And
uh, what's crazy is we almost have toss format completely back. The only card that we're missing is Thunder Dragon Colossus, and then we have all the stuff for toss back. And because mind control was one of the big reasons why Orcus mind control and Nightmare Unicorn, or not Nightmare Unicorn, Nightmare Mermaid, the one that's still banned, um, are a huge reason why Orcus was so successful. Because mind control, because it's any 2 monsters with full Orcus combo, and mind control could help you do that. So even if you
Yeah.
kind of bricked or whatever, and you got these awkward hands, you mind control, and you're going second, you mind control their monster, bada bing, bada boom. Mind control was at 3 then too, by the way. You freaking
Yeah, I remember.
you mind control their monster, you normal summon your dude, and then you just do full Orcus combo from there. And back then, also, we didn't have enough disruption, though. There wasn't a ton of disruption because we just got out of like an FTK year. So it it is interesting. Spellbook of Judgment coming back to 3 makes me happy. It's not gonna do anything, but I love spellbooks, and I'm like, good. It's where it belongs. It's where it should have been years and years ago.
Yeah. Starter going to 3 is fine. Sprite's not doing much. You're probably going to see more variants of the deck actually playing mind control and stuff because 3 mind control with change of heart and snatch steal. Now you're just taking your opponent's board from them and using their resources to start your plays.
You know what's crazy, right?
That's actually a thing you can do in Sprite.
You know what I thought about for Sprite too? Is so you talked about cutting the Sky Striker engine that you were running for possibly the 5 like steel cards, right? What
Yeah.
here's an idea. It is pretty funny that all these steel cards, these mind control, snatch steel coming back to multiple, kind of disrupts the whole SP Little Knight plan that a lot of people were doing.
Yeah.
On the opponent's turn, because if you target Masquerade, you're gonna force them to use that IP Masquerena, because if they don't, oh boy, you're off to the races. And if you're
Yeah, well, no, that's what the control thing is even people ending on like an SP Little Knight.
Mhm.
If you activate mind control and go, I'm taking the SP Little Knight, your opponent's going to have to activate that effect or do something with it, or else they're going to get hit with their own card. Or in Sprite's case, you just start your plays.
Yep. Uh, it is pretty interesting. I think that I'm interested now. Like the more we talk about it and the more think about it, I am interested to how the mind control snatch steal thing pans out. I think snatch steal at 1 is fine. I think the mind control at 3 might be much, but we'll have to see. Upstart to 3 is interesting. I think it's fascinating, but what's crazy is I don't think with the way
Droll and
modern.
Lockbird is seeing play right now, unless the format shifts away from Droll and Lockbird, which it can, we're probably not going to see Upstart utilized how it should be. Sky Striker is going to play it because that's just 3 free spells, and Droll and Lockbird's going to strew over a Sky Striker deck regardless what happens, so they have to play all the draw power that they can and all the spells that they can. But yeah, Upstart, unless the format really shifts away from Droll and Lockbird, which it could, we're probably not going to see it in the more competitive decks because activating an Upstart and drawing 1 card and getting Droll and Lockbird, it sounds awful.
So, funny thing about Upstart that I just want to bring up is I don't disagree with you, but there's also multiple things on why I don't think Upstart's going to be played. But here's a funny thing: is that the Gold Pride community was like, "Oh, we're so back because Upstart gives them gives the opponent 1,000 life points of deck thins." So what it essentially does is it allows you to have your life points go lower than your opponent's, so you can do your Gold Pride stuff. But I'm just sitting there like, I don't think it's necessary because there's nothing I would cut in the Gold Pride deck or the Punk Gold Pride deck that I have for Upstart Goblin because, and this is segueing into my next point, we need too many hand traps in order to viably play the game at the moment. So, running 37 card decks back in 2015 and before, because it's got hit in like 2015, maybe even 2014, or maybe early 20, was correct. It got hit. It got limited. Chicken Game got banned on the same list because people. Well, that's because people were running like a 34 card deck, even less than that. 30, so like one with the 3 terraformings we had too.
Yeah.
Because we did.
OCG ignores all those cards. TCG were like, we're just gonna play like 30 card decks.
Yep. But the important thing to remember about that time is that we didn't have Ash Blossom yet. We didn't. The only hand traps we had were DD Crow, Effect Veiler, Ghost Ogre. Golden Lock was out, but I didn't see a ton of play, and Maxi. So Maxi didn't see a ton of play either. I mean, I saw enough play, but I didn't see like a ton. From what I remember, I didn't start seeing like I didn't start seeing like 3 in every deck until around the time till the year Ash Blossom came out, or like the end of 2015, I think. It's like, well, we playing this. But Upstart was at 3. My reasoning, I don't think Upstart will be good outside of maybe Gold Pride decks, but I don't think it's really needed. And uh Sky Strikers is because we have so many hand traps that we need to play, and we had to play so much non-engine in order to actually viably compete nowadays, that I don't think Upstart Goblin, by running a 37 card deck and making your deck super consistent, even more consistent, is really necessary. Plus, we have better draw options now. Upstart Goblin was also at a time where we didn't have any draw twos without like insane stipulations outside of like Allure of Darkness. Like Allure of Darkness was already on its way out when Upstart got limited. So I just don't see it. I think.
Yeah, that's fair. Like I was thinking, I don't think it's gonna do that well, and I can be proven wrong because TCG is very much hyper focused on its play style. But
Well,
um,
it's at
I
3.
don't see Upstart doing well because we came out of a format that's a little bit grindy, and we're probably going to continue into a grindy format with interaction. And when you're on the clock and life is a resource, you don't want to give your opponent 1,000 of it.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that point up too. With the way the new time rules work, this card is a deficit, and it's like a card you have to side out if you after game 1 if you were playing it. Now it's an easy side out card.
Well, that's what made it so good in the TCG too, was that you just had 3 slots that were just straight up tradable to your sideboard.
But another reason I don't think it'll see play, I don't think it's like ever it's gonna be really relevant, is that even from a TCG player perspective, it's at 3 in Master Duel. I don't own it, granted, on Master Duel because it's an ultra rare. But I don't think I would play it even if I did have it.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that thing's on Master Duel and it just doesn't see play.
It's just not very good. Now here's the next interesting part to talk about this ban list though. Uh this is gonna be the ban list probably, unless I can't imagine them changing it that fast. For YCS Vegas.
Yes.
So, and Vegas was something I know that you're saving up money to go to, right?
I am considering it's hard at this point. It's kind of hard to justify it, yes or no. If it was like a singles YCS and it was Vegas, 10 out of 10, I would have already had the airline flight tickets booked and a hotel, and then find people that want to tag along. But because it's a 3 versus 3, it's in my brain. It's really hard to figure out.
Yeah.
how to pull it off.
Yeah, you would need people that can good players on your team that you can trust, ones that can play their deck, and then if you want someone that might be able to help you or whatever, you have to sit them in the middle every time. So,
Yeah.
which I guess because I've never been in a 3v3 tournament or game, that could lead to some interesting things, especially like depending on matchups and all that. Like I imagine how annoying it might feel anyway, to play a match and then be like, "Oh, I'll lose because like I sat across from a deck that happened to be really really good against mine, and this player's really really good and I make it up difference." Whereas the person next to me has a good matchup and is about as skilled as that player, and probably could have been, could have won. And if we just swap places, we could have won. I mean, like I said, I wonder if that comes up as a 3v3 thing because I've never
I
played in.
played I played 3v3 in Magic, and uh the whole theory crafting on that is what is it? Your far right person or far left person probably ought to be the no, actually your middle person should be an aggro deck and they should be your best player. And then your left and right should be like control and stuff. And then, and like we completely like went against that formula because we were idiots and it was sealed. So, and we're playing and I'm like sitting on the right and I'm playing a freaking aggro deck, and I'm just beating my opponents left and right. Like I don't think I lost ever. It was everyone else that couldn't carry the team.
Bringing up Magic is
Uh,
quite interesting. Magic 3 because
we went X and 1 though, so I
yeah,
mean that was still, and it was a side event. So
but the Magic 3v3 thing, I guess I'll ask you a question because I know I read the policy and how they work uh for Yu-Gi-Oh, but does Magic, is it best of one, but because there's three of you, you win uh on, or is it each of you plays a best of three?
I thought when I played, if I remember right, we were doing a best of 3.
Okay, because Yu-Gi-Oh is the same way, deciding in that same
If I
day.
remember right, the side event it was a best of 3, and because that was years ago, and coincidentally, I was in Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas loves their 3v3s. What could we say? uh,
No kidding. They have some obsession with it.
uh, I, but that's interesting. Okay, so it is like Konami's and Yu-Gi-Oh's. If that is the case, thing is though, that must also be so bad because your round doesn't end until your other two people's ends, and
Yes.
it's not like if I like win my game really fast in the middle, I'm just supposed to just talk to my opponent and wait. I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to like help you out. And if you're on like the side, you're supposed to help the middle person now, even after the games are over. But like,
Yeah.
but yeah, man, it would be interesting though. I think through if our locals was big enough, I would love to have or just try a 3v3 tournament at our locals, but our locals barely gets 8 people. So
Yeah. So like the Vegas thing, it's and I might just look at the scheduling and see if there's another YCS that I could go and do that would be a fun place to go to. Like, but like the 3v3 thing, it's so tough to justify it right now.
gotcha.
Specifically because it has to be a player that I can reliably know is going to do good. And plus then I have to do good, and well,
Yeah. I think the issue is, I think the best time we could have done 3v3s, if we were gonna do 3v3s, is during Sprite format, or Sprite, not Sprite, tier format, where I had tier, you had Sprite, and then you and me could
Yeah.
be on it, and then we have two very powerful meta decks. And while I'm very much, I could probably be sat in the middle because I know how to play Sprite pretty well. Uh, and even though there's a million things going on with tier laments, I'm pretty good at keeping track of them. And I play pretty fast in general, so I could have been the anchor, and then you could have been on the left or right, and then our friend AJ, who's like the best player at our locals, could have been like the other. But
It's impressive that we say that now. Like it's hands down. He's the best at our local.
uh,
Our dinosaur player is the best.
he's got the most tops. He tops the most often too.
He does.
Uh,
He beat my top too. He does that too. Like he just does better than me, and it's like I trained you so well.
in fact, I remember when they went to like regionals up in I guess it's from where we are down in Portland, Oregon. Uh, it he got like 30. He got like 30th or something like that, or he got like what normally would have been a top, but because there were so little people, it was top 16 or something, or maybe he got like top 20, but he was still out because there's so little
Yeah.
people. It was top 16, so like, and our and one of our friends who was a Magic player that quit Magic, uh, and went to Yu-Gi-Oh, was he got like that turn. He does pretty well, but he's like so focused on playing branded Chimera that like that's his that's his thing pretty much for advanced. But he plays Domain mainly.
Have you heard about Domain? Oh, you haven't? Well, check out this video from what's the name of his channel again?
Yu-Gi-Oh Commander. Shout out to Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yu-Gi-Oh! Commander.
Shout out to Yu-Gi-Oh Commander. But yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. He did at everything, and Domain is fun. It only took him talking to
We
me about it for I don't know how many months for him to get me into it.
He just sat me down. He was just like, Stefan, play. And I went, you know what? I don't get to play Yu-Gi-Oh very much. I'll have fun. And I'm playing it. I'm like, okay, this is fun, but now I would have to build a deck. And well, me and deck building is
Yeah. Well,
I can't deck build anymore.
deck building's hard, especially because I like brought up for that one of the people at our locals who and everything. What what deck was he? Oh, it was just a thief deck where he just steals all the opponent's stuff. Uh, and we brought up how that's probably not going to be good.
Yeah. The concept's there though. Like I really like I feel kind of dickish because like, no, that doesn't work with vampire stuff in particular. But then I went, but stealing your opponent's cards and using them to do things, that is a strategy.
Well, what's
And
funny?
that is a very powerful strategy because other decks that are better at the game can utilize it
Well, what's funny
better in the
about
current meta.
well, it's funny about him bringing up and using them in vampires. I don't think is wrong if he wants vampires because their XCs allow you to use any level
I
or
know.
at everything or
You've done
anything.
it to me. I know.
Yeah. So it's not. I don't think it's exactly wrong. I think it's just that vampires themselves are not competitive enough to compete. Uh,
No.
and then I brought up. I'm trying to scroll up to
But I
find.
started to theory craft. If you made a very grindy version of that deck,
Mm-hmm.
which you can. There's enough interruptions that are generic in the game where you could play a vampire deck and your whole goal is to just like win one game and advance, you could.
Uh,
Where you
all
just grind the game out and force them to scoop up because they're looking at the time and they know they can't possibly beat you. And then you just keep grinding, and then in that last game, you just have more life points.
yeah. I think about vampires. They also have a counter trap that's just gate. I brought up too. What makes a good deck, and I might make a video on this later. So I'll kind of go over some of the things I think that usually make a good deck. I forgot to bring it up. Uh, uh, well, I did. Okay, I did bring. But like the main points was, can it put up interruptions or negates? Can it OTK? How flexible is the deck? How consistent is it? Can it play through disruptions? And can it fit non-engine? And if it can do all those 6 things, the last question I guess you have to ask, and like I said, I won't go too far deep into this topic. Maybe I'll make a video on it, full video discussion. Is where does it fit in the meta at this point if it's not already a meta? But
Yeah. Like, and a lot of that thought process goes into me because you look at the sprite deck. If I cut the sprite dino deck, if I cut all the dinosaurs, there's so much non-engine that fits into that deck. It's almost hilarious.
I would say that like there's so much room for non-engine that you could run a ton of hand traps and probably still fit upstart in that if you wanted to run pure. But then you actually wouldn't be able to OTK very easy, like they thought that
Oh, I
Sprite would
did the
be.
math while I was at work. Like, you got the post went up. It's like, up starts at this, and I like in my brain, I did the Stefan thing where I ran through every single like win that I've had, which is weird because of how terrible my memory is. I can remember most of the routes I got to build a winning board in Sprite, and most of them ended up I went in pure Sprite. I don't think I can pull it off unless I go completely uninterrupted. In Sprite Dinosaur, if I play the dinosaur engine first and get very little interaction from the opponent, or I can still put up a board that just kills them outright with Ultimate Conductor Tyranno and the board. If they drone Lockbird me on that first upstart or the upstart later in the game, depending on where that drone Lockbird drops, then it just becomes a shit, I lose. Because it then those upstarts just become bricks. Like, I ran, like, as I was sitting there at my desk doing my things, like my brain in the background, which is hard to explain to people, was running through all of that while I was working, and I went, yeah, no, it doesn't work. Like,
Yeah.
when it comes to playing Yu-Gi-Oh, I am really good if I've played the deck enough to just sit there and work it into all the combos without having to sit there and have the cards physically in front of me. I can just go through all of it and change things out, and it,
I know.
it's one of those weird skills that
So
I have.
I know that you mentioned earlier that we might hit a roll lock. Isn't like ran it through and everything. I'm gonna be real. I think we've hit a point, yo, that roll and lock will always be a 3 of now.
Yeah, like that's what I was saying is like I didn't want to just like in stone say that it's not going to drop out, but unless, like I was saying, unless the format shifts and we stop playing drolls, you're not going to be seeing too many decks that are going to run stuff that just draw. Like, that's like the Fenir. Most of the time your opponent will special summon that thing, and it's just a threat.
Yep.
You're not even activating its effect because you're so afraid of that drone lockbird. But if you get something to stick on the board and use its effect, or you get an effect that searches and your opponent doesn't drone lockbird you right there, then you can use the Fenir effect and search, and you know you're safe. So it's really weird, um, because it's like in a format where drone lockbird is not a thing. Fenir would be at one, or yeah, it would be at one. But because of the power level of Droll and Lockbird being played, it can't be played to its full potential every single game.
I guess the next question: do you think that on the Droll and Lock topic, at viewers at home, I hate speculation things on whether things will get hit usually, but I guess this is the thing. At some point in the future, not next list or whatever, but it's possibly at some point in the future. I think Droll and Lock will get
Banned, probably. It is one of those things where you either ban it or you have it at 3, and I hate saying that, but it's one of those cards that has to be like that. And the issue is if they hit Droll and Lockbird right now, they would have unleashed so many. The flood walls would have broken on the game, and you would have lost a lot of players, and you'd have a lot of these really optimized decks being played. So the fact that they put Upstart to 3 means that Konami TCG at least is confident that Upstart is not going to change the game as dramatically as it did just because Droll and Lockbird's placement in the meta right now. So if Droll and Lockbird gets hit, then a side effect of that would be we'd probably have a list where Upstart's at 3, and then after that list, an Upstart would probably see more play because it's just a free card. Decks would go back to being 40 card decks, and then you would be playing Upstarts to make them 37, and the game would be so optimized at that point, and you would have so many consistent combo decks just going off that they would have to hit Upstart again. So right now, the only thing keeping Yu-Gi-Oh fair, and this sounds really ridiculous coming from me, is the fact of the existence of Droll and Lockbird in the meta. It is what everyone thinks Max C is, but it's not as back-breaking. It doesn't exactly end your turn like Max C does. In some instances it does, and in others it's just a threat that creates deck building outside of a game to where you don't want to lose to it, so people are unoptimizing their decks to play around Droll and Lockbird.
I will say
Droll and Lockbird gets hit, then you get things like Pot of Desires comes back and sees a lot more play. Like it it is a threat that exists within the meta right now that keeps us at a equilibrium point of you can't have an over optimized deck, because if you over optimize there is going to be a lot of games that you lose to Droll and Lockbird. I'm not going to say that you wouldn't top with an over optimized deck running 37 card with Upstart, but you would be fighting such an uphill battle with all of that, and you would have to just have everything perfectly played. The Droll and Lockbird is genuinely the card of the last format and will probably be the card that defines this format in counterplay in Yu-Gi-Oh! So you can't hit Droll and Lockbird without hitting a bunch of other stuff and kind of forcing the game to decelerate in power creep. Because right now, Droll and Lockbird is actually the card that's keeping power creep in check.
on the
If that makes sense.
yeah, I mean it makes sense. I understand. On the comparison of Droll and Lock to Max C, uh, I actually agree with you, even though I have a deck that fucking dies to Droll. I have two, actually, that does not like Droll and Lock at all. One of which being Punk Gold Pride, and then the second one being Spellbooks of. So, while those two decks die to Droll, Spellbooks are gonna die to everything. That deck is so power corrupted, so it doesn't actually feel that bad. Get Drolled. Uh, Gold Pride though, at one of the regionals I went to with Gold Pride, I played through a Droll and Lockbird and did so well that I feel confident enough that to say that Droll feels healthier than Max C. Max C, Max C is so unhealthy, and it feels so unfun to play versus compared to Droll. Droll stops you from searching more, but you get your one search, so you just got to make sure that that search counts, and it changes if you want to play around Droll. It changes just how you think about it. Playing around Max C is a lot harder, especially as someone from the TCG who hasn't had to deal with Max C until Master Duel, and well, I dealt with it, but it wasn't like so detriment because the game was so much slower back when we had Max C over here in the TCG. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's gonna wrap up this video. I think we talked a good amount about this
Okay.
Forbidden Unlimited list. You can let us know what you think in the comment section down below. And of course, if it is your birthday today, happy birthday. And as always, have a wonderful